Top of the evening, governor.
Don't know how to respond.
Let's put another shrimp on the barbie. Bro, how was Halloween?
Uh, what did I do? Because I didn't do my plan.
Yeah, because you were ill.
No, that's not why.
Okay, but
Enough
you
with the
were.
illness. Yeah, was I?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, you
probably.
were.
Yeah, I think I was. It was cool. Uh, I don't even remember what I did. I know there was a party, but that party
You
sucked.
you went to a party.
Yeah, because it was upstairs in my
Oh,
house.
I see.
Yeah, but it was
Can you
super
hear me
lame.
okay, by the way? I've never used
Yeah,
these headphones for before. Okay.
yeah, sounds solid. But yeah, it was cool. Not much really happened. Just hung out with some homies.
Well, cool.
Yeah. How was yours?
Um, Not bad. I have a I don't know if it's a tradition yet because I kind of forget to do it some years, but I really like to watch the original Halloween on Halloween
Mm,
because they always play it like on a bunch of TV channels. So it's always just on like throughout the day. So you can always like find a time to just sit down and watch it.
right.
Um, but yeah, I definitely didn't do that last year, but I did this year. So that was cool. I ate
Nice.
way too much candy. I didn't feel good for like 3 days. I bought like two of those trick or treating size handout bags, like the give the little fun sizes out, you know?
Yeah.
And I bought that on like the day of Halloween, and I've literally eaten both of them before today already
Oh my
by
gosh.
myself, pretty much. So,
That's terrible.
yeah. And we made those little like Pillsbury cookies that have the little like
Oh,
Halloween
yeah, yeah, yeah.
stamps on them, you know? And we ate an entire box of those
As you should.
on Halloween night. So, it was great, but I felt terrible afterwards.
As you should.
Yeah.
It's a good man.
Well, I've been hearing a lot of talk among other reviewers of albums, people I respect fair amount.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really respect them. Well, I guess I respect them. Like I just respect their musical opinion, but um, I don't know them is the point.
Yeah.
um, these guys that I follow around and kind of check out a lot of platforms of reviews have been saying that one of the must listen albums of this year is Sampha's Lahai album that just dropped a couple weeks ago.
Hmm.
I gave it a listen when it came out, and um, we had like some other plans already in the works for the
Yeah.
pod, so it wasn't one that was like super high on our priority list right then. But being as things have kind of chilled out a little bit, I thought this was a good chance to give this a listen. People that had it on their radar were like, "You got to listen to this when it comes out." And then since then, without fail, like most of the reviewers that I like actually like feel like their reviews are worth paying attention to, all of them
Mhm.
have said like this is a top three album this year.
Wow.
And so I was like, dude, let's see how we're feeling about it. Let's check
Right.
it out.
That's
Yeah,
crazy. Because I remember you text me saying like a lot of people had this as like album of the year. And so
yeah.
I was stoked. And then things happened.
Oh, all right. Well, let's give this thing a quick review. I mean, um, do you have any like intro thoughts, any overarching things you want to cover before we dive into this project?
This this would make my top 5 of the year if if it didn't feel like it only fit one feeling for me. Does that make sense? Like I feel
Like
like
one
this is
vibe.
yeah, like to me I and we'll get into it more, but like I don't see myself listening to really any of these songs anywhere other than like maybe I'm just it's a relaxing day, I'll throw it on.
Sure.
Like just some relaxing music or I don't study, but if I was in your position, I throw it on. It's good background,
Right.
good study sesh music. But you're not playing this at a function, a party. You're not you're not you might maybe one or two songs, three songs off of it. You could drive down the road or take a
But
trip.
it's not like it's not like a road trip like driving with your friends
Right.
kind of album. It's like a
Exactly.
Sunday afternoons
Exactly.
driving to chill album.
Right. So I feel like if it was a little bit more diverse or had some cool features or some different switch ups or
Right.
more up tempo beats, a lot of different things, but because it doesn't, that's why like I just because of how bad albums have been this year, there's either good or bad, I feel like this year.
Mhm.
It'd probably be on it's definitely on the good side. So it'll probably make my top 10, but it's not even 5 in my opinion.
Okay. Yeah. It reminded me a lot. I think it's a little better than this album, but it reminded me a lot of the James Blake project that came out a little bit
Mhm.
earlier this year, which is an album that, like you said, like I do a lot of like homework to that kind of thing, or just like study or chill kind of music.
Yeah.
We'll listen to that. But this one, like, I think it has a little bit even less replay value for me because there's a little too much going on to just have it be like complete background music.
Right.
But there's not enough that it's like going to be, like you're saying, a super engaging playlist to play at a party or wherever, kind of just day-to-day songs. But let's get into our feelings on it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the production on this album?
That's one thing I will give a lot of praise for. I think this album was produced very, very well. It gave me very similar vibes to I'm not going to remember the albums, but I'm sure you will. Childish Gambino, something about the internet.
Oh, the Because the Internet project.
Yeah, and then Chance the Rapper. I don't remember
Hmm,
which one you made me listen to, but
interesting. Yeah,
it,
coloring
it
book probably.
yeah, yeah. It didn't feel like traditional beats, which it's absolutely not, but it gave more of an experimental feel. That's why
Hmm.
I say those two artists with those two albums, because that is the feel.
Yeah,
But
kind of a
it's
lot of like ballad blended with like electronic kind of stuff.
yeah, like if if he would have put out, I mean, artists don't really do this unless you're a DJ or like rave or any of that. But if he would have put like an entire track, like all of these instrumentals with like no lyrics to it, it's like the perfect like lo-fi album. Like
Yeah.
so production is solid. I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, I'll agree. I give this a very high rating as well. I think it kind of, like you're saying, it's a unique blend of different stylistic things. Like there's a lot of R&B hip hop vibes with the drums that you're getting. There's a lot of like electronic overtones, which, like, I think this is classified as an electronic album if you're to give
Mm.
it a genre title, even though there's a lot of like blending. But and I also like how the piano is kind of incorporated to make there have a lot of more soulful, softer moments while also like kind of having that tempo and diverse electronic feel. Um, and one of the songs, like I noted two here, uh, Spirit 2.0 and Only,
Mm.
which are one of like some of the more trending tracks, I think have super cool instrumentals there.
Yeah.
They kind of incorporate all that we just talked about. There's a lot of electronic, but also hip hop with some soulful piano touches on it as well. I also thought there was like some cool cinematic stuff in the production to a certain extent, like even just on the Wave Therapy interlude.
Mhm.
Like there's a lot of moments that feel like they're kind of swelling and building that add to kind of the vibe he's trying to give for this album. And like you said, it's kind of a one-dimensional vibe. Like you're getting the same vibe throughout the album, but I feel like the instrumental really plays into that vibe that he's creating a lot. So I
Yeah,
thought that was super cool.
absolutely.
How do you rate the production out of 10?
So I gave it an 8. I feel like even a 9 is very I critique production pretty hard. Just
Mm-hmm.
because especially today I feel like unless you're Kanye or Travis, it's hard to be original or not unique, original or like do something that hasn't been done yet. Um so to me like 9 is like hard to get. So 8 is right up there for me, but I think it
Yeah, for
deserves
sure.
a high rating.
And kind of like you're saying, I think in a year when some of our favorite projects like Utopia or the JPEG Mafia project have come out with like crazy out of this world, very unique production styles,
Yeah.
it's hard to get something that's like what you consider perfect. I ended up going with the same rating of an 8, but like that's very high compared to what I feel like a
Yeah,
lot of albums have been getting from me on production this year.
absolutely. Especially like the ones, because obviously we haven't even been up for a year, but like especially of lately, like I feel like the artists that we've been listening to, aside from um Travis and then a couple others, JPEG Mafia, they just I feel like they don't care as much. It's more so being, oh, I got to be trendy for TikTok, I got to be a
For
radio
sure.
hit, so it's all very unoriginal and
For
lackluster.
sure. Yeah. I mean, like, I was thinking about this the other day, but you go to a lot of mainstream artists, and like, I'll just pick Drake because we talked about his album pretty
Mhm.
recently, but it would be really hard for me if you came up to me and were like hum a Drake beat from the Drake album or from like Certified Lover Boy. Like I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to do it. There's just not like memorable beats on it. If you gave
Yeah.
me like a Utopia beat, I could give you like a couple of those, you know what I mean? Or
Right.
like I could describe a JPEG Mafia beat. I don't think the human voice can like make those noises, but like I do think it's pretty crazy the year we've had production wise. But anyways, I'll move forward to our next category. One of the super unique things about Sampha that a lot of people love is his voice. What do you like and dislike, I guess, about the vocals on this project?
I I don't even think there's anything that I dislike about this album. Like even him, like you sent me two of the songs that we have seen him on in, well, at least that I know of recent,
Yeah,
which is Father Time off Kendrick's album and um the
my
other one,
eyes.
yeah, off
Yeah,
Travis Scott's. And he sounds amazing in those. It does transfer over. Like he has a very beautiful voice. It's strong, but could be soft at the same time. He has
right.
very great range in that sense. And it's unique to him. Like I don't hear anybody else singing like this. So uh, I like it.
Yeah, for sure. I love how unique his sound and style is. Like there's so many artists in today's music that are just kind of, I don't know. They're like they just fall into the same kind of area or category. Like they don't really do anything super unique.
Right.
And so when an artist does stand out, like with something that's a little more original, like what Billie Eilish has been doing on her recent records, or like an artist that I'm a big fan of in the mainstream right now is Tate McRae. I think she does like some super cool, unique stuff
Mhm.
for pop music that a lot of female artists aren't doing. But I think he's kind of in that same avenue of doing something very unique vocally that makes him stand out from his peers. Um, while it's like vocally undeniably good, I think my only gripe with it is that he stays largely in the same pocket for like the
Yeah,
whole album.
that's fair.
Like he kind of hits more or less the same range as every song.
Mhm.
There's never like switch ups of like this song's like at a lower vocal tone
Mhm.
for the most part. It's kind of like all the same flow and vibe and ebb and flow of his vocals throughout the whole album. And
Right.
like while it's not a bad like sound by any stretch, I think I would have given it like a better score if it went up and down
Mhm.
a little bit, like just for some diversity's sake. But I ended up giving it an 8, which again is really high for me. But I think like it would have been a lot higher if he had given it kind of some more diversity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I gave it an 8 as well. So we're on the same page so far.
Yeah, we just should come up with a one overall ranking, I guess. We basically do. But um as far as this album goes and its lyrical content, I feel like the album isn't super multi-leveled, I guess. Like there's not
Mhm.
a whole lot of layering. There's some like double meanings here or there, like some metaphors to reflect his feelings here and there, but it's not like you know, and I don't think we'd expect to get like a Kendrick album or a Cole album or like
Right.
those kinds of things where he's telling incredible stories. um I don't think it's super deep in that context, but it's really vulnerable and honest, which I
Mhm.
like a lot. Like a song that I enjoyed a lot was Evidence, where he talks about having his daughter. I believe he has a daughter. Anyways, he had a kid, and kind of that experience in his life being evidence for like, you know, a lot of things in spirituality for him, and having a lot of meaning in his life. So there's a lot of super cool things like that. He explores a lot of topics that I feel like he cares a lot about, which is cool. So I appreciate the honesty and vulnerability, even though it's not like, oh, that was a really cool original way to say that,
Yeah.
or you know, like I never thought of it in that way, which is things that I really enjoy in lyrics. But it's cool, and it's honest, which I appreciate from him.
Yeah. It's hard to ever judge artists lyrically when you grow up on only lyricists.
Sure.
Um, which isn't fair, but oh well, I guess. Um, you
Yeah.
basically, you know, said it all because I mean the lyrics are whatever. Like
Yeah.
you're right, they are very like vulnerable. Um, but I don't know. It's not what I'm looking for. Um, that's not what I usually listen to. It's not
Sure.
really my style. So like the lyrics don't really help it in a way.
Yeah.
Um, so I gave it a decent rating, I guess.
Yeah. What'd you give it?
Yeah, I gave it a 6.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just a little higher. I gave it a 6.5.
Mm,
Because I do think they're like good lyrics. Like he's good at getting his feelings across. Like it's
yeah,
not like, oh, this is super cheesy and cringy and
right.
uncomfortable. But it's like there's never a moment where it's like, wow, that was a really beautiful way to say that. Or
Hmm.
like, I really, you know, understand his feelings on a deeper level. So like he's just kind of saying it to you, which is cool. But
Yeah,
it's like there's not a whole lot of depth or like, I don't know, things that really like make you think about it kind of stuff. But
right.
like you're saying, it's hard to critique it from not like a rap lyric perspective, because like I don't expect him to come out with like a Lupe Fiasco album with like,
Right.
you know, double entendres and metaphors out the wazoo and whatever. But like I think when you're touching on such deep subjects like spirituality or like maturing and aging and talking about like family and things that interest him, I think there's a lot of room to play with that he doesn't really explore, I guess is what I'm getting at. But that
Yeah,
does kind of lead into the concept of the album. And like it's not really a concept album, you know what I mean? He's not
yeah.
like sending you to a different world, but kind of more so bringing you into his
Hmm.
world, sharing where he's at in life. For me, I think it basically just boils down to, if you could give it one word, it's maturity. It's just about maturing and growing
Hmm.
up. And I mean, like, I wasn't big on Sampha when he first came out. He just wasn't an artist I was super familiar with. But just in getting ready for this album and learning about him a little bit, I understand it's been like 6 years or so since his last project. Fans have been waiting for this one for a long time. And I think he dropped his last one when he was like 29, late 20s.
Hmm.
So, and then in between then and now, he's now in his mid 30s. He's had a kid. So I feel like you sort of expect that, like a lot of maturity, a lot of growing up talk, a lot of life, you know, experiences for him when you have that much time off, similar to how Black's last album was, or
Yeah.
like Kendrick Lamar's last project. How do you feel about like I guess what we'd call a concept or a theme about this album?
It was cool. I feel like it was very easy to notice um at certain times what he's talking about, whether that's, something of like evidence in his spirituality or just kind of how he's grown and how he's experienced certain things. And so it's cool. It's I don't know. It's hard in my opinion to do those kinds of, if you want to call it concept, because like you look at Kendrick's album, and we all gave him crap, not because it was necessarily bad, but because it
Yeah.
was what he was going through, and like you said, bringing us into their world. And so, like, luckily for us, this at least sounds better. Like
Yeah, it doesn't make you
melodically,
want to feel depressed.
yeah. So it sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
It's just I don't. If you're a diehard fan, then I mean it's different because you love the person. But for those who just listen, like this is my first time actually listening to a project by him at
Yeah.
all, and songs that don't make him the feature. And so
Right.
I just like congrats on your maturity and you're growing up and everything, but like it's not for me. Like I don't care. Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like you're just not invested in him as a person because you
Yeah,
don't really know him like that. You didn't grow
right.
up on him, or like you weren't there when he first came out or dropped. It's not an album that you've been hyping up or looking forward to. I will agree. I think if you're a diehard fan, it makes it a lot more interesting to you. Um, but the other thing I think about a concept like that is this concept's been done through and through so many times.
Yeah.
Like every artist more or less that's has like a standing and a like established presence in music kind of has an album like this.
Yeah.
Whether you look at like Eminem's recovery album, like coming off of all of his drug addiction and then coming back and being like literally calling the album recovery, like
Yeah.
the road to recovery, where I've been the last few years, my headspace, and where I'm at now. Or Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, which kind of takes you through like this is everything. This is like the good, bad, and ugly. This is like literally what's going on in my life. It's not beautiful, it's not pretty, but this is just honesty. um I don't know if this is really a hot take, but my favorite album that's like given me a lot of replay value from this theme and this concept is Black's last project, Since I Have a Lover.
Mm.
um because I think it's like everything that I want in music and storytelling. Like he
Yeah.
takes you through, you know, this is my maturity, this is what I'm going through, and still makes it like have a really cool, unique sound that I want to come back to and listen to a lot.
Yeah.
Like he's talking about his faith and his relationship with God, and he's talking about his daughter and how his daughter's helped him mature, or like wanting to settle down and be in a more stable and mature relationship. Talking about it's been long weeks, like I have to put the gram away, like kind of distancing himself from social media. Anyways, I really like how Black did that last album, and I feel like that's kind of the style of that maturity sound that I enjoy a lot. And I do think Sampha hits that pretty hard with this album. That's like you're saying, it's not Mr. Morale. Like it's not
Yeah.
making me feel like cringy and like, and not that like Kendrick did it poorly, but like kind of like we are saying, like it's not meant to be beautiful at all times. And I feel like Sampha does approach this sound with a lot more optimism and a lot more hope than maybe that Mr. Morale album did. So from a replay value perspective on that, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, but I think in doing that a little bit, he does kind of leave out a certain level of introspection that Kendrick did hit on his
Yeah.
project. Um, and anyways, it's not like new in terms of a concept, I guess is the point behind what I'm saying. And to me, it's not the most impressful iteration of doing that, but it is cool. It's commendable that like, he's approaching that. And for his diehard fans, it is probably really cool for them to hear like how his daughter's influenced his life and kind of where he's at with feeling. So I gave it a 7 because of that.
Yeah. I gave it a 6.
Cool.
Yeah.
Um, so really where I know Sampha from before this album is just his features, like
Right.
appearing on the K Dot album, Mr. Morale, which is ironic, I guess, now that we're talking about it, that Sampha's literally on that project. But
Yeah.
um, or the Travis record recently, he did that little bridge on My Eyes. He's on Drake's More Life album. Anyways, that's really where I know him from a lot. I really enjoy him as a feature artist.
Yeah.
And for an artist that we know from hearing on other artist projects, there's very little, if any, like what you'd call traditional features on this project.
Mhm.
And so in rating the features, I mean, I feel like it's kind of important to also discuss the lack thereof and kind of how
Right.
that plays into it and how he sounds as a solo artist, like completely out on his own on this one. Um, anyways, what do you think of the lack of features and kind of how that plays into this album?
So in our little uh requirement,
Criteria?
yeah, criteria.
Yeah.
Thank you. You talk about, does it detract from the album? I wouldn't say it does. Um, I'm cool with any artist doing a solo project, maybe one feature, 0 to 2 features. I feel like is where you don't really have any. But so
Yeah.
I don't mind it if it sounds good. And so for this, like, it doesn't sound bad, just it does feel at times that songs could have been better, or they don't feel as full as other ones. And I feel like if you would have put whoever, it really doesn't matter, but if you would have got in a couple features, then it would have helped out. But at the same time, it's not like, oh, this sucked, he should have done way more.
Right.
So I'm kind of like, I'm in the middle.
Yeah, you're like it doesn't necessarily ruin the album, but it could have been a little better
Yeah,
if there was some
absolutely.
features. Yeah, for sure. I think he greatly benefits as an artist from some variety. Like even if you just listen to his solo project here, and then listen to his performance on Father Time, and then his performance on My Eyes, like those are three completely different worlds from each other. Like they're
Right.
so diverse between the artists that you're getting on there, or the sound and the style and the instrumental. So I do think he greatly benefits from variety and features in general. Though I do understand that the subject matter is understandably approached from a solo artist perspective. Like when you're talking about your life and your headspace, you don't necessarily want to be lending out half your album to Kendrick and Drake and
Right.
whoever else you want on there. But I do think that artists are able to do this at times with a lot of care and a lot of thought, that would provide some cool diversity, and it would have improved it musically, like in a sonic perspective.
Yeah.
I don't think the subject matter requires other artists to be on there, but I think just from a replay value sonic perspective, I think he greatly benefits from artists. I wouldn't say he's like strictly a feature artist, quote unquote, because I
Yeah.
do think he makes some great, beautiful musical moments on this, and he's like a really well established um, voice at this point in music, I think, with how unique he is. But like I think he can do a lot of really cool stuff with some artists, and maybe like when we get an album or some singles from him that aren't just geared towards his life so personally, maybe we'll get that. But like even just in thinking like right off the top of my head right now, I think he could do something very cool musically with like a Don Toliver. I think him and Don Toliver could have cool vocal chemistry, or like him and The Weeknd could do something cool. I
Mhm.
even think like Tyler the Creator has such a unique vocal sound that's very opposite to Sampha in terms of like just their vocal tones, but like I think they could do something kind of cool together. But anyways, I think that it could have been musically improved with some features, but like you're saying, I don't think it necessarily needed it, quote unquote. I don't think it ruins the album that there's not any on there, but it
Yeah.
definitely would have helped me want to come back to it a little more often.
Yeah. I did give it a 5 because, like I said, I was in the middle, so might as well give it the rating of the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. I gave it a 4, because like you, I think I'm pretty in the middle on it. Like I don't think it ruins it by any stretch, but I think because it could have benefited from it and it doesn't make me want to come back to it as much. I think that it got a little bit lower for me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked about this throughout this whole review of the album, but how do you feel about the replay value
Yeah,
on this one?
I didn't really there's one song that I downloaded. Um
Yeah,
so and that one I was actually shocked because so it's the song Only. It's the eighth
yeah,
track on the album. And after seven, I was low key giving up on it. I was like, okay, like it's not for me. Like I'm not gonna get
sure.
anything from this album. But then that one played and I was like, oh, okay, this
This
is
is kind of cool.
yeah, this
Yeah,
is really cool. Yeah. So that's the only song, unfortunately. Uh just because I don't see any songs other than that one that I would want to listen to, or there's a time where I will listen to. I feel like I have better relaxing music like
for
in
sure.
my phone than what I see here. And I know others would disagree, but for me it's I only got one song. So I gave it a 3.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I don't know how often I'm going to come back to this. I think there's some fun tracks. I didn't download any of these. I'll probably go through it like once more, kind of skim through it again just to see if these are tracks that I want to download. I did enjoy Spirit 2.0 as
Mhm.
well as Only, the one that you like. That's one of my favorites as well. And I think the storytelling on Evidence is pretty cool. I also enjoyed the closer Rose Tint a fair
Mm.
amount. I think the chorus on that one's pretty cool and very catchy. But so there's some fun tracks and some good vibes, but I just definitely wouldn't say that this is going to be like a mainstay in my rotation by any stretch
Yeah.
over the next few months. So I gave it a 4, just a little bit higher than you, but um, like you're saying, I just don't know when I'll come back to this all that much. Aside from like maybe one or two tracks that make the rotation of just being in shuffle, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So out of 10, what did you rate it?
The album as a whole,
Yeah.
the math on like all of our subjects came out to 6.25, so just under 6.5.
Mhm.
And that's pretty close. I'd maybe like say it's a little closer to 7 than it is to 6 overall, because I do think it's pretty cool, but I mean it's in the ballpark. It's pretty close to that.
Yeah. So with mine, I got exactly 6. I got 6 out of 10. If anything, I'd probably bump it up to a 6.5. Uh, it was cool. It was unique, and I really liked his vocals, plus the
Yeah,
production. So, but I'm
for
cool
sure,
with that.
for sure. Were you able to pick out like your favorite, least favorite, and most underrated track here?
So, kind of not really. My favorite one is Only.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the best track, but mainly because I just really enjoyed it. Um, I would say most underrated in my opinion would be the intro song Stereo Color Cloud. Um,
Mm,
maybe just because I wasn't expecting this kind of a sound and so it stuck out to me more. But
yeah,
I thought it was pretty cool. And then I don't really like I said, I don't think the album is bad and I don't really have a worst one. So it's going to be a cop out, but for the worst one, I'm choosing the French interlude, whatever that's called, where she just speaks French for 5 seconds.
fair enough. Um, I think I'll agree with you. I think Only is the best track on here. I think instrumentally and vocally, it's just like a culmination of everything that he does really well on the project. They both come together for like his best performance on that song, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Um, as far as most underrated, I would say Evidence, but like I don't know. I feel like that one gets kind of the love it deserves, at least from what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
But I'll say Rose Tint, the closer, just because
Mm.
I was looking at the streaming numbers on that and it's really low. I think it's pretty cool. If I were to pick my least favorite, um, I think it's probably What If You Hypnotize Me, the song right before that. And I don't know why. Like, there's nothing wrong with people going through their own avenue of life, and if hypnotherapy works for you and kind of strange therapy methods are your thing that helps you, then that's great, that's perfect. it just felt like weird to hear it
Yeah.
in that context. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it's like not a very common, I guess, thing to be in mainstream music, which, like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. Like if that's what works for you.
Right.
But I don't know. The vibe was just really weird coming from like, he's talking about his daughter and like, oh, my daughter's evidence of there being a God and, love in the universe and like all that stuff. And then like, there's a super cool interlude. And then he comes in and he's like, will you hypnotize me? I'm going to hypnotherapy. And I was like, what this is so strange compared to what I was just listening to.
Yeah.
Yeah, musically it's not that bad of a song. I just, yeah, the vibe was a little weird coming from the two tracks right before it. So
Right. Well, cool.
yeah, I mean, Sampha's an impressive artist. I think he's for sure got a cool future ahead of him. And like, this is really only his second album. He's still a pretty young guy. I'm hopeful that like he'll put out some super memorable stuff that I'll come back to a lot
Yeah.
more than this one. But I don't know if this is going to crack my top 10. I do think there's quite a few projects that I enjoyed more than this one, but
Right.
I understand why the people who are saying it's album of the year are saying that, because it is very experimental and very unique.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just think there's a couple things that knock it down a few pegs for me.
Yeah. Agreed. It was a cool listen though.
Yeah, I mean, it's diverse. It beat the that Blink 182 record that dropped the same day as it. So I
Well,
keep
that's
this in
good.
that album. I really don't even have that big of a problem with it. Like it's it's not treacherous. It's just, I mean, maybe it is a little bit.
Link is catching strays for no reason.
I, I think it was because I was so excited for it. Like they finally reunited. So I don't know if you knew that. Like Blink 182, their lead singer kind of went and did his own thing.
Oh,
And then they had another lead singer come in and help the group out for a few years. And then this was like their first reunion of like all of them together
wow.
since their early days. And their like main guy that kind of founded the group, their guitar player, and he does some vocals as well, had a bout with cancer in between their
Oh,
albums.
wow.
And so like this was like a huge comeback album for them, like all together, that I was really hyped about, because I've loved what Travis has been doing with production for other pop punk projects lately.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know.
He
I
didn't do
get
it.
they can't put out all the small things on every single song they ever made, but like, I guess it'd be nice if they put out more memorable stuff once in a while.
Yeah, that is true.
Anyways, I think that wraps up this week. Is there anything else you want to say about Sampha or Blink 182?
No.
Well, I guess as far as news goes, I know we haven't done new music and what we're listening to recently. I feel like trying to jam it in at the beginning of every episode kind of lets other important things that we want to talk about get lost in the shuffle, or just drags out the
Yeah,
episode
that
for
is
like
true.
an hour and a half. But I think what we'll probably start doing, if you're a hardcore listener to that listens to us every week, is we'll probably end up doing a monthly recap of the new music from that month as its own episode at the end of the month, either by itself or maybe in conjunction if like there's another big topic we want to talk about that week. Maybe we'll release it as like a special or something. But so if that interests you, that's usually where our hottest takes come from. So you won't miss out on that if that's what you come to listen to. But yeah, so there's that to look forward to for November.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, check us out on all your podcast platforms and social media,
Yes,
all of them.
where the person who's in charge of that actually posts again.
We've got some good takes coming up. I can feel it.
Me too. Something
Yeah.
outlandish is coming.
we're gonna talk 1989 Taylor's version.
Oh no, don't
Just
want
kidding.
to.
Just kidding. It's time to move on. All right. Well, We'll see you all next week.
Yeah, goodbye.
Adieu.